What's up, the squad? It's Cess, your favorite auntie with Uncle Tendencies. Welcome back to CessTalksSports and the BWISE PoliSports Tea Time, where we don't just talk hoops, we rip the cover off power, politics, and the business of this game. And let's keep it all the way real. The pot is scorching in Chicago. This guy didn't serve up a win now plan, they served up a con. A quick cash hustle wrapped in a playoff talk. And who paid for it? Not the front office, not the executives. It was the fans. It was the players. It was the culture that built this league from the ground up. No practice facility, no elite free agents, no investment in championship coaching, just smoke, mirrors, and marketing spin. And when the plan collapsed, they didn't own it. They weaponized media and sky commentators to cover for them. Blamed execution, blamed players. That ain't strategy, that's straight betrayal. And here's why it matters. This is bigger than Chicago. It's a pattern across the dub. Black women coaches erased, black superstar sideline, media used like a shield to protect power, while fans and players get left holding the bag. And you know I don't pour this tea alone. My PoliSports partner in the building, the one who rips through the spin, exposes the game, and brings nothing but the raw truth. Political Lil. She don't hold back. She don't sugarcoat. She lights fires under front offices, media machines, and anybody hiding behind the scenes and excuses. So buckle in. The Political Lil is about to drag this Chicago Sky win now con straight into the light. What's up, Lil?
What's happening? That's truth. Auntie says, look, what the Chicago Sky pulled off wasn't just a bad season. It was a fraud against their fan base. They promised competitiveness and community pride, but they delivered a 9-28 record thus far, elimination from the playoff contention, had fans sit through numerous blowouts, a fracture, and a coach and GM in the press gaslighting the public and the fans by taking no accountability for their roles in the failure. When you compare that to the rebuild of the Washington Mystics, who were in a similar situation but decided to actually rebuild for the future by trading their veterans for draft capital, investing in player development, building infrastructure, and putting together a long-term vision, you see what a winning strategy looks like. And the proof is in the team's record. What Chicago Sky sold the fans was a hustle. And let's connect this to the bigger picture. Across the league, the WNBA has been leaning into male hiring for head coaches while pushing black women coaches out. At the same time, media coverage glorifies certain players while erasing the dominance of black superstars like A'ja Wilson. That's not an accident. It's part of a political agenda. It's the same playbook we've seen across other leagues and industries. Undermine black leadership, erase black culture, and profit off black labor. Chicago just made it plain. So tonight we're going to peel this onion all the way back. We're breaking down the economics, the demographics, and the politics. We'll look at how other teams actually rebuilt the right way. And we'll expose how the Sky turned their fan base into a cash register. And we're not stopping there. We're going to ask the hard questions about what comes next. Do the fans have grounds for consumer fraud legal action? Do we need organized advocacy to protect athletes and black female coaches? Because one thing is certain, the con will continue unless we name it, claim it, and fight against it.
Let's start right where the betrayal began. This so-called win now strategy. What did it really mean? And why was it doomed from the jump? See, fam, let's call it what it was. The Chicago Sky's win now wasn't about winning. It was a headline, a marketing slogan. It sounded cool. A shiny lure to keep fans spending while the foundation was cracked. How do you sell a win now when you don't even have a practice facility until 2026? How do you sell a win now when elite free agents won't even take your calls? How do you sell a win now when your idea of leadership is firing Teresa Weatherspoon and handing the keys to a rookie head coach who's never run a team? That's not a plan. That's not a leadership. That's spin.
That's right, Auntie says. What the Sky front office did was take the language of playoff and championship culture and use it as a hustle. They packaged hope like it was a product, and fans bought in because fans want to believe. But let's be clear, a real win now strategy requires infrastructure, stability, and elite talent. Now let's compare the Sky's hustle to other teams' strategy. The Washington Mystics, they chose a full rebuild, traded veterans, stacked draft picks, built for the future. Their coach, Sidney Johnson, built a fast-paced system around young players. They said, we're rebuilding. The fans knew the plan. It was honest. It was transparent. The Indiana Fever, they built around Caitlin Clark, Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston, acquiring elite free agents to give them floor spacing, shooting, veteran leaders. Clear offensive identity. That's why they're a national draw. The Las Vegas Aces did it by stacking superstars, investing in a facility, and giving Becky Hammond the power to run her system. The New York Liberty did it by signing free agents Jacquel Jones and Breanna Stewart, and then adding Natasha Cloud, elite players with firepower. The Sky stuck in the middle, not rebuilding, not contending, no shooting, no facilities, no direction, just marketing and merch. The Sky had neither the roster nor the resources, but what they did have was a marketing department. Win now moves are backed by resources and proven systems. The Sky alone pursued a hybrid, half-built, half-contender plan designed more for marketing and competition. Other teams had real strategies. For Chicago players and fans, the front office came up with a hustle.
Facts, Lil, and that's betrayal. What they sold the fans wasn't just unrealistic, it was flat out impossible. The roster built wrong. Too raw to play the style Marsh was preaching. Too disjointed to build real chemistry. You can't shortcut culture. You can't fake championship DNA, and you can't manufacture a contender out of vibes. The result, 9-27 record, 8 games left, mostly against playoff contenders, elimination lock. And now a fan base that feels calm. A city left asking, how can ownership look us in the eye and dare call that a win now strategy?
And here's the thing. We gotta understand the intent. This wasn't sloppy planning. It was a deliberate con. Ownership knew they couldn't deliver wins, but they could deliver hype. They leveraged Angel Reese's star power, the excitement of Kamilla Cardoso, and the loyalty of the Chicago fan base. They raised ticket prices through the roof, pushed merchandise, and marketed the next big thing in women's basketball. But under the hood, they never had the pieces to back it up. That's where fraud meets basketball.
And fam, this is where we got to stop and ask the real question. If ownership knew the product couldn't match the promise, isn't that consumer fraud? You sell fans premium tickets. You sell playoff dreams, but you knowingly roll out a losing, unstable, under-talented roster. That's not just bad management. That's not just a failed strategy. That sounds like a case.
That's a setup right there, because the hustle didn't stop on the court. The real sting was what they did to the fans, raising prices, exploiting the loyalty, and turning a rebuild into a cash grab. Let's talk about how the fans got played. GM Jeff Paglioli sold fans a win now plan to justify ticket hikes and flashy roster moves. But without a dedicated practice facility, without the ability to land elite free agents, and without a seasoned head coach, this was never about building a playoff or championship contending team. Instead, it was a marketing strategy designed to keep merchandise moving and the seats filled. The results, actually a 9-28 record as of August 26th, and that's far from winning now.
Here's a contradiction, fam. The numbers don't lie. Black fans boosted WNBA viewership 67% in 2024. Hispanic fans up 96%. Women now make up nearly half the fan base. Under 35, up 124%. Young girls up 139%. The WNBA's strength is diversity. Its growth is rooted in Black culture, women, and youth. That's the future. But instead of leaning into that, the league is centering whiteness. Why? Because media and ownership keep selling the lie that conservative corporate dollars are the only path to profit. The truth says otherwise. The real money, the real growth is coming from the very communities they're trying to erase. That's not just bad politics. That's bad business. This ain't about basketball. It's about rebranding. It's about making women's basketball safe for conservative corporate pockets.
Now, family, let's keep it real. The win now scheme wasn't just about what happened on the court. The real sting was in the fans. The prices of Chicago season tickets for 2025 has significantly increased for the fans. Chicago didn't just lose games, they lost money. A fan reported courtside seats increasing from $200 per ticket 2 years ago to $775. VIP packages went from around $4,704 to more than $8,624 for 2 VIP seats. Even general tickets, you know, them working folks and longtime supporters, depend on the shot up. They shot up. General season ticket packages. These are expected to range from $684 to over $2,300. That's not growth, that's gouging. These prices were driven by the increased popularity of the WNBA and the Chicago Sky 2024 draft superstars, Angel Reese and Kamilla Cardoso. Teaspoon in leadership, and at a time, they added an electric guard, Kennedy Carter, who was let go after the firing of Teaspoon.
And the sad part, Chicago has one of the most loyal fan bases in the dub. They show up, they cop the jerseys, they bring their kids, they ride for their squad. But ownership looked at that loyalty and didn't honor it. They exploited it. They dangled Angel Reese's star power. They hyped Cardoso's potential. They sold the illusion of win now, and then they cashed in on the hype. That wasn't about building community. That was about squeezing every dollar out of it. And here's where the betrayal cuts deep, because women's basketball has always been about community. Moms, dads, aunties, uncles, young girls filling the stands, young boys too. The culture of Chicago, working people, black people, brown people, women, youth, they are the heartbeat. They are the future of this league. So when you price those folks out, you're not just selling tickets, you're selling out the very people who built the game.
And auntie, let's call it what it is. It was a bait and switch. Ownership promised playoff basketball, a win now strategy, and a culture of winning. What fans got was a 9-28 record thus far, instability on the bench, and rising costs that lined the owner's pockets. That's not just mismanagement, it's manipulation. That's not fandom, it's financial exploitation.
So here's the tea, man. When we talk consumer protection, when we talk fraud, this right here is Exhibit A. Fans were sold a dream, ownership never intended to deliver. They turned hope into a hustle. And if we don't call it out, they'll keep running the same play. Because as long as we buy the lie, they'll keep selling it.
And the next level of betrayal, they didn't just come for the fans' pocket. They came for our culture. They erased the contributions of Teresa Weatherspoon and replaced her with a system designed to push Black female leadership out. Let's get into that.
If the money grab wasn't enough, here's where the betrayal got personal. Teresa Weatherspoon, Teaspoon, was the heartbeat of this squad. She came in and poured into those young players and the organization. Turned Angel Reese into an all-star in her rookie year. One of the most dominant rookie seasons in league history. Put Kamilla Cardoso on an all-rookie team. Resurrected Kennedy Carter's career. Built confidence, built culture, built family. And what did the front office do? They cut her loose. Humiliated her in a move that was damn near criminal. They erased her contributions. They spun the story like she couldn't develop players, like her system was outdated. That's not just betrayal, that's character assassination.
Right, auntie, because Teaspoon wasn't just a coach. She represented something bigger. She was a Black woman in leadership at a time when the league should be uplifting and celebrating Black leadership. Instead, the Sky fired her and brought in Tyler Marsh, a man with NBA ties, but no head coaching experience. And the media spun it like it was an upgrade, like this was innovation. But let's be real, it was replacement. They didn't want a Black woman building a culture and shaping a team. They wanted someone who fit the optics of where ownership and corporate sponsors want this league to go.
And let's not overlook the politics. They put Nadia Rawlings, a Black woman minority owner, out front as the face of Teaspoon's firing. That wasn't representation. That was a shield. They used her to soften the blow, to make it look like progress. Well, really, it was the opposite. This is the game. Put a Black face on white power moves. Make erasure with optics. Mask erasure with optics. Straight out of corporate America's DEI playbook. Use us as the mask while erasing us from the power.
And the fans saw it. They didn't bat a spin because people know what Teresa Weatherspoon means. Not just to the Sky, not just to Reese, Kamilla, or Carter, but to women's basketball, period. She's a legend, a trailblazer, someone who's paid her dues and given her life to this game. To push her out under the guise of progress is a direct insult to her Hall of Fame legacy and to the culture that built this game.
So when we talk betrayal, this is the soul of it. It wasn't just basketball. It was stripping away Black female leadership. It was replacing it with a safer image. It was betting fans wouldn't notice. But we noticed. We always notice. And we're going to keep saying her name, Teresa Weatherspoon.
And until you just said it, fans noticed. But the reason this con lasted as long as it did is because the media carried the water. They didn't challenge ownership. They amplified them. So let's dig into the role that media played in pulling this off.
Yeah, let's talk about the other half of this hustle, the media. Because the front office couldn't pull this off alone. They needed a megaphone, and the media handed it to them. Instead of holding this guy accountable, the headlines just parroted ownership spin. Weatherspoon could develop players. Tyler Marsh brings NBA experience. Chicago has a win now plan. Lies, lies, lies. Dressed up as news.
That's right. And let's be clear, the media didn't just report, they spun. They amplified hype around Angel Reese's marketability, but played down the lack of infrastructure to support her success. They ran glowing features on Marsh's NBA ties, but conveniently skipped over the fact that he had 0 head coaching experience. And when the Sky tanked to 9-28, the coverage framed it like growing pains instead of exposing it as the con that it was. That's complicity.
And it's not just Chicago. Across the dub, the same pattern plays out. Black superstars like A'ja Wilson minimized. White players handed 24/7 saturation coverage, even if they ain't playing. A'ja Reese breaks records, labeled controversial. Caitlin Clark hits a 3, branded historic. That's not coincidence. That's the media setting the agenda. Who gets shine? Who gets erased? Who's celebrated? Who's diminished? This ain't just journalism. This is politics. This is cultural warfare waged through sports media.
And Auntie, let's not forget, the media also shapes the fan narrative. When outlets repeat owner spins, fans, they internalize it. They start to believe Weatherspoon failed instead of recognizing that she was sabotaged by a front office that gave her no tools to succeed. They start to accept price hikes as necessary for growth instead of calling it exploitation. That's why controlling the narrative is so powerful. It keeps fans confused while the hustle keeps on rolling.
And here's the tea. Without the media, this scam collapses. Ownership needed cover, and the headlines gave it to them. So when we talk accountability, it's not just the front office. It's the journalists. It's the commentators. It's the so-called insiders and beat reporters who chose access over truth. The media didn't just fail their job. They became co-conspirators in the con.
And that's the perfect setup. Because if you zoom out, this media erasure ties directly into the politics of the league itself. The WNBA is in the middle of a rebrand, and that rebrand means centering whiteness while pushing Black culture to the margin. Let's get into the politics driving the whole scheme.
Yeah, because when we pull it all the way back, we got to talk about what went down in Chicago. It isn't just one team. It's a mirror of the whole WNBA. The league is in the middle of a political shift. After the 2024 election, when DEI programs got gutted and culture wars lit up, front offices started making moves. But these weren't basketball moves. They were political moves. And the strategy was clear. Erase Black culture as the heartbeat of the league. Rebrand women's basketball around whiteness. Package it for conservatism and corporate comfort.
That's the blueprint, Auntie. Look at the pattern. Black women coaches pushed out. Teresa Weatherspoon in Chicago, Tanisha Wright in Atlanta, Vicki Johnson before that, and Nikki Blue, who currently has a discrimination lawsuit in the courts. Meanwhile, the pipeline of NBA assistants, mostly men, mostly aligned with male power structures, is being ushered in. That's not just a coincidence. That's structural erasure. They want to dilute the visibility of Black women in leadership while keeping our labor, our style, and our culture on the court.
And here's where it stings. Black players are the league, period. A'ja Wilson, Angel Reese, Nafisa Collier, Brittany Griner, Arike Ogunbowale, Courtney Williams. They're the faces driving ticket sales. They're the ones moving merchandise. Look at the stud buds. They're the culture that keeps this league alive. But when it's time for media coverage, sponsorships, league branding, they're sidelined. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark gets the wall-to-wall coverage. It's nostalgia tours. Sabrina Ionescu pushed as the face of the future. This ain't about talent. It's about optics.
Exactly. And let's add the demographics into this. WNBA fans are some of the most diverse in all of professional sports. Young, queer, progressive, largely women of color. That's the base. But instead of leaning into that, the league is trying to clean up its image to attract conservative sponsors and corporate partners. That's why you see the centering of whiteness and the sidelining of blackness. It's a political calculation, not a basketball one.
And let's be clear, this ain't new. Black culture has always been the engine, and white institutions, they've always tried to erase it while cashing the checks. From the NBA to college sports to hip-hop, the playbook stays the same. What's different now is the WNBA is standing at a crossroads. Will it honor the culture that built it, or will it erase the culture for safe optics? Chicago gave us the answer, and it's ugly. And this ties straight to the bigger picture. The WNBA isn't just rebranding teams, it's rebranding the league. The moves are clear. Black coaches swapped out for NBA-linked male coaches. Black superstars marketed for profit when it's time to lead or define identity. Black point guards swapped out for white point guards that don't play as well. And after 2024 election gutted DEI nationwide, the WNBA followed right behind. Women's basketball became another battlefield in the politics of whiteness. And let's be real, this ain't about basketball. It's about making the league safe for conservative corporate dollars at the expense of black fans, black leaders, and black culture.
Exactly, Auntie. Because if this was about basketball alone, you'd invest in what was working. And what was working is us, the culture, the players, the fans. But instead of honoring that, the league is running the same old playbook. Erasure dressed up as progress. It's not about talent or growth. It's about power and control. So now the question becomes, what do we do about it? We've broken down the scam, the exploitation, the erasure. The next step is talking solutions, legal action, activism, organizing. Because if the fans don't push back, the hustle will keep on rolling. Let's talk about that path forward.
We've laid out the receipts. Chicago's so-called win now plan wasn't a strategy. It was a hustle. They exploited fans. They erased black leadership. They weaponized the media. So the question is, what do we do about it? Because naming the problem is only one step. Accountability means action. And let's be real, fans may have a case. When you knowingly sell a fraudulent product, whether that's a ticket, a jersey, or a season built on lies, that crosses into consumer fraud. And consumer protection laws exist for moments exactly like this.
That's right. Fans have more power than they realize. Legal advocates can and should be looking at whether the Sky misrepresented their product to the public, promising a win now team, raising ticket prices sky high, and then delivering a disastrous 9-28 season with no infrastructure. That's false advertising. And the community has standing here. Because it's not just a bad investment, it's exploitation. But beyond the courts, there's organizing to be done. Fans can petition ownership, demand audits of how the money is being spent, and even pressure sponsors who bankroll erasure.
Exactly, Lil. And here's the truth. Sponsors don't like heat. They don't want their names tied to fraud, racism, or exploitation. If fans start making noise, if communities demand accountability, sponsors will back off. And when the money moves, ownership feels it. Players have power too. They can speak up. They can demand protections in the next CBA. They can insist on real facilities, culture stability, and a commitment to cultural respect. Let's not forget, this league exists because of the labor and loyalty of players and fans. Without us, there is no product.
And family, this is bigger than Chicago. This is about setting a precedent. If the Sky get away with this, other teams will follow the same playbook. Exploit the culture, raise the prices, erase the leadership, and sell the lie. But if fans push back now, if legal advocates step in, if players and communities join forces, then the message will be clear. You cannot exploit us without consequences. You cannot erase us without resistance. And you certainly can't hustle us without being called out. Here's some of the legal and activist implications. Consumer fraud. Fans were sold a fraudulent win now product. Premium prices for a team structurally incapable of competing. Civil rights implications. The erasure of black leadership, Weatherspoon, and commodification of black players like Reese and Cardoso raised questions of racial bias in hiring, marketing, and organizational decision makers. And media accountability. Journalists must answer for carrying ownership's narrative while silencing dissent. So let's make it plain. Organize, demand, file complaints, rally at games, flood the media with our truth, because the front office might own the team, but we own the culture. And as long as we stand together, the hustle can't last.
And that brings us to the heart of this conversation, accountability and action. We named the con, we called out the betrayal, we exposed the erasure, and we pointed to the solutions. Now it's time to close this out and lead the charge moving forward. We started by laying the foundation. The Chicago Sky's so-called win now plan, a hustle, not a plan. And political Lil tied that betrayal straight to the bigger patterns across the dub. Erasure of black women leaders, media manipulation, corporate politics calling the plays. And segment one, the win now hustle. Chicago sold fans a false product. No practice facility, no elite free agents, no seasoned coach. That wasn't strategy, it was spin. A quick cash grab dressed up as a playoff dream. Then we followed that up with fan exploitation segment. We showed how the ones who paid the price weren't the front office. It was the fans. Ticket hikes, courtside markups, VIP packages, even basic seats inflated. Loyal working class fans, the culture that always showed up, turned into cash registers. That win now push, less about wins, all about squeezing every dollar out the community.
And in segment 3, betrayal of black leadership, Then we turn to the find of Teresa Weatherspoon. Teaspoon built chemistry, supported Angel Reese, and uplifted players like Kamilla and Kennedy, yet she was scapegoated and erased. In her place, the Sky installed Tyler Marsh, an NBA assistant with no head coaching experience. It was a clear erasure of Black women in leadership, masked by a marketing PR spin. In segment 4, we rolled out the media hustle. We showed how the media amplified the scam. Instead of challenging ownership, journalists, they parroted talking points of the leadership. They hyped Marsh's NBA ties, minimized Weatherspoon's contribution, and framed losses as growing pains. This mirrors a wider pattern across the WNBA, where media saturate coverage of white players while erasing the dominance of Black stars.
In segment 5, politics and erasure of Black culture, we pulled back to show how Chicago fits the bigger picture. The WNBA is rebranding itself, and the pattern is clear. Black female coaches pushed out, Black stars minimized, a clean image packaged up for corporate sponsors. It's calculated erasure. The very cultures that built this league, Black culture, queer culture, women's culture, replaced with optics that serve power and profit. In segment 6, legal action, activism, and organizing. We laid out the path forward. Fans may have legal grounds to challenge the fraud. Beyond the courts, it's about activism, pressuring sponsors, demanding audits, organizing petitions, and holding ownership to account. Because the hustle only works if fans stay silent. But organized resistance, that can flip the balance of power.
We conclude by charging the fans with action. The Chicago Sky's win now scheme wasn't just a bad season. It was a con, a betrayal, and an act of cultural erasure. Now the GM is attempting to gaslight the public, and it's time for the fans to call him on the carpet. The community has power. By staying loud, organized, and committed to the truth, we can resist the hustle and protect the culture that built this game. These elements of the argument indicate that paying consumers should take legal action and activism, because now the case is airtight. The con, fake win now strategy. The betrayal, exploiting fans and firing Weatherspoon. The erasure, media, politics, and culture. And the receipts, demographics, proving that the pivot made no sense. Together, they paint a clear picture. This wasn't just mismanagement. It was a deliberate scheme. And the only way to stop it is for the fans, the players, and the culture to rise up and demand accountability.
Okay, y'all, let's take a breath because we unpacked a lot. The Chicago win now hustle wasn't just a bad season. It was betrayal. Betrayal of the fans who paid hard-earned money. Betrayal of Teresa Weatherspoon, whose legacy got disrespected. Betrayal of the culture that built this league. They promised playoffs. They promised a winning culture. What they sold was hype. And when the smoke cleared, it was the community left holding the bag. Here's the bottom line. This ain't just about basketball. It's politics, it's economics, it's power. The Sky front office ran a con, but the bigger play, the WNBA itself, rebranding the league, centering whiteness, and sidelining the culture that makes women's basketball what it is. If we don't push back, if we don't demand accountability, it also becomes the blueprint for the whole league.
So here's the charge, family. Don't just get mad, get organized. Hold ownership accountable. Push sponsors to take a stand, file complaints, demand audits, and call out the media when they parrot lies instead of telling the truth. Content creators, spread this information as a segment on your platforms to reach a bigger audience. And most importantly, keep showing up for the culture. Support the players who carry the league on their backs, and never let anyone erase the Black women who built this game. Because let's be clear, this is bigger than Chicago. This is about whether our culture gets honored or erased, whether fans are partners in the building of this game or just a labor to be exploited, and whether Black women will continue to lead and shape this league or be pushed aside for the comfort and power and profit. The answer depends on what we do next.
So to the fans, to the community, to everyone listening, the con only works if we stay silent. The hustle only lasts if we buy in. But when we organize, when we demand truth, when we center our culture and our people, there is no hustle strong enough to stop us. Chicago, the WNBA, the world. You've been put on notice. Let's land this plane. The Chicago Sky sold us a dream that never intended to deliver. They called it a win now strategy, but it was a con. They exploited Angel Reese and Kamilla Cardoso's shine without giving them the tools to win. They betrayed Coach Teresa Weatherspoon and disrespected the culture they claimed to celebrate. They jacked up prices on loyal fans, promising progress while serving failure. And the demographics prove it. There was no need to shift culture to attract corporate dollars. So why chase a conservative white male audience that never cared about this product? Because the league and ownership believe that that's where corporate money lives. The sky, win now, con, not strategy, politics, exploitation, and maybe a test pilot for the league's whitewash game. And the most dangerous part, they think they can keep doing it. They think fans won't notice. They think black culture can always be packaged, sold, and discarded. But here's the truth. We see the game. We know when the hustle is in play. We know when winning ain't the goal. And we know the Chicago Sky defrauded its fans, its culture, and its future. So next time they try to sell you a strategy, ask yourself, is this about playoffs, championships, and culture, or just another hustle dressed up in jerseys? Because, fam, in sports and in life, the biggest fraud is when they sell you hope without a foundation. And we're not falling for it anymore. Remember, sports are never just about the games we play. They're about the stories we tell and the systems of injustice we expose and the culture we protect. Thank you for rocking with us. This has been another CessTalksSports BWISE PoliSports Tea Time. Like, share, comment, subscribe, spread the word, keep the pressure on. Hashtag respect her. I'm Cess, your favorite auntie with uncle tendencies, rolling with always dropping the truth, political lil. Y'all stay tuned. Talk soon, and we out.